He's going to graduate this Friday. Yeah, he's going to graduate this
That microphone's not really live. Yeah, anyway, we have two special presentations today, one from Clint Sheely, our Assistant City Manager for the water system, and also a summary of a project that Sam Lyman's been doing, so we'll be looking for that. So let's go ahead and get started. I think we'll start with law enforcement so that you get on with whatever other business you got.
Yeah, it's going to take you about 2 minutes. I'll be out of your way. These gentlemen here can do everything. Good to see you. All right, it's always good to see y'all. Smiling faces. We have Memorial Day weekend coming up, so I want y'all to stay safe. Be careful if you go out of town. But you know how people drive these days. Nobody wants to drive speed limit. Everybody wants to run you off the road and tailgate you and in a hurry to get where you're going. First of all, your CAT team officer, Deputy Moore, he's not here tonight. He came out early this morning. He's been working all day, so I told him he can go home. He didn't need to be here. The only thing I wanted to pass on to everyone is that school is about to get out. There's going to be a lot of kids out of school, and I'm not saying that every young man or every young lady is bad. I'm just saying that some of them, sometimes they don't have anything to do, they get in trouble. The biggest thing that I'm very concerned about when I go to these community meetings, and I go to a lot of them, is that, young man, how old are you?
18.
You're 18. Young lady, how old are you? 19. Okay, so they're of age. But we have a lot of parents that don't come to the community meetings that have teenage kids. And if you ask yourself, who's doing all the crime out here on the street? Most of them are teenagers. And the reason why I say that is because I would say we did a survey on our gun violence in Richland County. And ages are from 18 on down. We got 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds, 15, 16-year-olds with handguns. And you have to ask yourself, okay, they got handguns, they're too young to buy them, where do they get them from? They get them out of people's vehicles. They're breaking into cars and they're stealing handguns. And that's the reason why we preach every month, tell people, if you are a gun owner and you carry a weapon, and I know sometimes you can be in a hurry to get in the house, you're tired, I left my gun in the glove compartment, I let it stay there overnight, I get it in the morning. Well, these young teenage kids, they know that. Because when they passed that new gun law, a lot of people went out and bought handguns. So please, if you have any handguns in your vehicle or any weapons, lock your vehicles and remove your handguns because school is out. These kids don't have to worry about going to school early in the morning. They're going to be hanging out and they're going to be trying to break into people's cars and steal some guns. Okay? So I just want to put that out. Richland County Sheriff Department has summer camp for kids from 8 on up to 17. They normally charge $60, but the sheriff said that if a family don't have the $60 to pay for the camp, it's not going to turn the kids down. So I have 2 numbers that you can call if you know anybody's interested in putting their child, a daughter, or son in a summer camp. If y'all want to take these numbers down, I'll read them out to you, or let me know when you're ready. First number is 803-576-3070. Got that one? Second one is 803-576-3034. 576-3034. This is Youth Services Program. And they're the ones that are putting on the camps. If you call in 2 numbers and no one answers or respond back to you in a timely manner, take this number down. This one is the main headquarters, 576-3000. Say, look here, I call these 2 numbers that are put out for the youth services, no one has responded back. I need to talk to somebody that's in charge of youth services, and I need somebody to respond back to me because y'all putting stuff out, y'all need to, need to let us know our kids enrolled in that. Does anyone have any questions? I know the City of Columbia, y'all primary in the city. If you dial 911, City of Columbia is gonna take the report. The county, we pretty much, the city is in the county, that's why we attend the meetings, but we help them, so we back them up. Yes, sir.
I was going to ask you a question about the gun. When a gun is stolen out of a car,
Yes, sir.
and they find out, they commit a crime with it, they link it back to who owned that car.
Yes, sir.
What happens to those people?
Own the gun?
They own the gun, I mean, to me.
You mean the owners?
The owner that left it in the car,
Mhm.
they stole it, they commit a crime with it. To me, that's negligence on their part. What happens to them?
Well, that's a good question. The legislatures that make the laws in the state of South Carolina, the ones down at the State House, okay, Councilwoman, maybe she can answer that first.
Well, I was gonna say, maybe last year, the year before, the City of Columbia, we made it, a $500 fine for folks not reporting their guns stolen. Some people wanted to make it a criminal act, but let's say someone steals your gun and you don't know that it's gone, and so you fail to report it within 24 hours. We didn't also want to make you a criminal and give you a criminal, like make it a criminal citation. So it's a $500 citation for failing to report your gun stolen or lost.
Within 24 hours?
Yes.
So what if they
How
report?
would you know it was 24 hours? They always say it's 24.
We wouldn't, which is why we didn't want to make it criminal.
Yeah.
Because, I told folks, I have a CWP, and it's just like you see on TV, when daddy has the gun upstairs, in the closet, in the lockbox, and they say, where's your gun? And dad goes up there, it was like it was there when we left it. That is why we didn't want to make it criminal,
Right.
because who's checking every day? But the whole point of it was to incentivize people to report their guns. Even if it's not 24 hours, we need to know that, that's kind of, it's more
Before
of,
something bad happens with it.
right, and it helps us connect the dots.
Yeah, but if you, if it's stolen and your car is locked and, you report it stolen, it's nothing that law enforcement can do to the victim because you're a victim of a crime. But if you know it's stolen and you don't report it, just like Councilwoman said, then that kind of makes you say, well, I got a gun out there on the street, somebody got it, and I know it's my gun, and I'm not gonna report it. And then that kind of, to me, that kind of puts you in the mix with it because you know that you have a weapon that was stolen and you're not reporting it. See, a lot of people get the wrong, idea about weapons. See, a lot of people think when you go out and buy a weapon, and Lee Carroll, correct me if I'm wrong on this, a weapon, when you buy a weapon, it's not like when you go out and buy a car and it's registered in the DMV because you got a tag. We don't have a database where you register guns. We have a database when a gun is stolen, it goes into NCIC and we put it in the database. That way, if we recover that gun, and if it's stolen from you, it's going to have your name, your address, the date it was stolen from, and how it was stolen. That way we can trace it back to you and you'll be able to get your weapon back. But if you don't report it stolen and it's out there on the street and we find that gun on a teenager and because we run all guns, we run them, and it's coming back not stolen, the only thing we can do is take possession of the weapon, charge the teenager with it because he's underage, but we don't know who the owner is, okay? So, and some people say, well, I own a gun and I want to sell it to somebody else. How do I make that legal? Well, really, you can make it legal either way. You can say, hey, I'm selling this gun to so-and-so, he's of age, he's not a criminal, he doesn't whatever. And then you can say, write a little note saying, I sold such and such weapon to so-and-so. You take it to a notary and have it notarized, and that one person that you sold the gun to, if he gets stopped or whatever, he can show that he
The
bought
common
it.
thing I always hear when you guys come in is almost always stolen out of an automobile.
Right.
I'm sure it happens in the house sometimes.
Yeah, we have burglaries, a gun can be stolen.
Leaving a gun in a car, to me, that's not acceptable.
People do it. I'm gonna give you a good example. I'm gonna give you a good example. About a year ago, in the city of Columbia and Richmond County, we had about 100 cars broken into. And out of 100 cars, 69 guns were stolen.
That's not a place people go.
It's not a place. That's why we preach it every month.
Shouldn't be allowed.
Take the weapon out of the gun, out of the car, you're gonna have a problem. But people do it. They leave the cars unlocked and they leave the weapons in the vehicles. I can't understand it. It's just the nature of people. You know? It's just the nature. All right, y'all have any questions about guns? Any more questions? It's just the nature of people, you know what I mean, you know? Yeah. Yes, sir.
Not so much a question, brother, thank you. I know the sheriff's department and CPD works very diligently to keep these guns off the streets.
You try.
It's very much appreciated by the community, so thank you.
Thank you very much. All right? Okay, y'all have a great day.
Okay, hopefully everybody who's inclined to has had a chance to look at the minutes from last month's meeting. Any corrections or additions to the minutes? I think I found one little correction, which I'll pass on to Deb. But it wasn't significant. I think it was that she said that the mobile food market is on Monticello, but we know it's on Courtright. So, anything else? Okay. Hearing no objections, I will call the minutes approved. Okay, we have two special guests today, and so we got lots to do. And I'd like to welcome Clint Sheely and Ben Will from the City Water Department. And so I'll just let you take it away.
Thank you, Bob. Appreciate it. I'm glad to be here with my friend Bob P. tonight. He's a good one. He runs our Climate Protection Action Committee as well. That's where I interface most with him. Thanks for the invitation. Appreciate it. I always like the opportunity to come speak to our customers and our citizens. So my name is Clint Sheely. I'm one of the assistant city managers. I have responsibility for our utility, your utility, water and sewer systems, and also our stormwater system, our public works department, our engineering and customer care departments as well. So it's my pleasure to do that. I've been doing that for about 10 years with the city, and then for probably 18 years before that, I was an engineering consultant, did a good bit of work with the city, and then started my career with about 6 years of service with what was the Department of Health and Environmental Control, is now Department of Environmental Services. So that's where I started my career out of Clemson. Don't get mad at me. My engineering education up there. So what I thought I would do tonight, and I won't belabor the point too much, but I wanted to kind of hit a couple of topics, give you a little bit of background about your utility, and then talk about canal recovery. We get a lot of questions about where are we with recovering our Columbia Canal, and then talk a little bit about water quality and customer service focus, and then see what questions you folks have. So that's kind of how we'll spend the next 10, 15 minutes or so, trying to go through that relatively quickly. A couple things I wanted to ask you first, just to get you acquainted with our water system. Does anybody have any idea how many million gallons of water we treated and pumped out yesterday to our drinking water to our customers? Anybody have any clue?
I'll guess.
Yes, sir.
80 million.
Wow. About 71 actually, was what the report showed this morning. So about 71 million gallons, and so we deliver that to a thirsty community. Anybody have any idea how many water accounts we might have? We distribute that 70 million gallons of water to.
Because you don't just distribute to the city, you got.
That's the next question, Bob. Yeah, that's right, yes. Yeah. So, you might want to guess?
25,000.
About 160,000 customer accounts. So that's industry, that's commercial businesses, and that's largely residential, covers the university. Fort Jackson is one account for us. so they're a big account. So Bob hit on something really good. So out of those 160,000 or so water accounts, we got about 65,000 that are sewer customers as well. And other water customers are served by other sewer providers. So out of that 160,000, what percentage do you think is located inside the city limits and what percentage outside the city limits? Anybody want to hazard a guess?
40, 60?
So not bad. We're about 33% inside the city, 66, 67% outside the city. So the majority of our water customers are outside the city limits. We serve drinking water all the way up to customers in the town of Chapin. Folks that are in the Chapin Municipal Complex are drinking our water. We serve it all the way to Shaw Air Force Base, Joint National Guard Base, out 378. Scout Motors, you've probably read about Scout Motors coming to Blythewood. They're going to be our water and sewer customer. Another one of our biggest customers is Mark Anthony Brewing. Has anybody heard of them? So the Pineview Industrial Park is located out Bluff Road, kind of on the outskirts of the city. And Mark Anthony Brewing came to us a couple of years ago and wanted to know how quickly we could get infrastructure to that cornfield that we were standing in with Ensor County Economic Development. And the beauty was I picked up a rock and I said, well, I don't have a great arm anymore, but I can throw this rock and hit a 16-inch water main that'll give you all the water you want. I can pick up another rock and I can hit a 30-inch gravity sewer line that'll give you all the sewer capacity you want. So then they started talking about, well, how quickly can Dominion get me the power? So I knew I was off the hot seat because I can say yes. And so they signed up and they are one of our best customers. Are you familiar with alcoholic beverage White Claw? Mike's Hard Lemonade, Cayman Jack, there's a couple other products. Most of what you're drinking now of those products is canned right here in Columbia with our water. So great customer, really glad we were able to say yes to those fine folks. A couple other statistics, I know it's hard to read. This is a little dated. It says 2,400 miles of water pipe. It's over 2,500 miles of pipe in the ground right now, distributing drinking water. That doesn't include those little service lines that we talked about in the small thing chatted earlier about. So a lot of piping in the ground. People characterize us as an urban provider, an urban water system. But really, when you think about the extent and geography of 2,500 miles of pipe and serving 400,000 people, we've got a very large geography. There are some northeastern cities that are our peers in terms of service population and capacity that have less than 1,000 miles of pipe because of the population density. So we serve an urban core, the university, the fort, the state government, but we also have a very rural reach to our system as well. A lot of folks don't understand that. We got over 1,000 miles of sewer pipe as well. So a lot going on with your utility. It's a very, very large operation. So let me start talking about some of the topics. The October 2015 flood event. I've been a City of Columbia employee for 6 weeks as the waterworks superintendent located at the Canal Water Treatment Plant. What in the world was I thinking, right? So then this flood thing comes along. Hurricane Joaquin comes and starts raining, and it doesn't stop raining. And we had watched an awesome Clemson Notre Dame football game that night on the TV. And I got up about 5 o'clock the next morning. I said, told my wife, I said, honey, I'm going to put my Sunday school books in the car, but I'm just going to ride over to the plant and see how things are going, make sure everybody's okay. We got a lot of rain last night. And I'll make it to church though. Get the kids up, get them ready. I'll see you at church. That was Sunday morning. I got home the next Saturday night at 9 p.m. So We were living it, I'm telling you, it was on. So I think everybody knows we have a breach in our canal as well as a lot of other impacts to our community due to that flooding. So we've been working every day to try to recover our historic Columbia Canal. Not a day goes by that we don't put time and energy into making that happen. So I want to just share a few nuggets about where we are. You'll see a couple of slides up there. The one project that is under construction that I'm most excited about right now, maybe in my career at Columbia I'm most excited about, is this alternate water supply. So we've been relying upon a late 1800s vintage canal system to be our primary source of drinking water to downtown and the university and the Ford and over half of those customers that you talk about. The other half of the water comes out of Lake Murray. So we've repaired our canal on a temporary measure and are waiting to do a full repair to that. This alternate water supply is an intake that's going to go directly in the river, so that if we have a breach in our canal, even if after it's repaired, our customers won't know it. We'll keep pumping water directly out of the river, keep supplying water to our customers. That's what puts us better than we were in October 2015. It's not just good enough to be restored like we were in October 2015. Because that thing that happened in October 2015 happened, and it could happen again. Or something else could happen, a seismic event. You're talking about an earthen embankment built in the late 1800s that really wasn't built to today's design standards. This thing over here will be built to today's design standards, and the contract has already started. We got $32 million of aid from the federal government to help build that $62 million project. And so we're rocking and rolling, and I can't wait until that thing is finished. We're about 27, 26 months away from commissioning that, but major construction is happening. The other piece that has been difficult and painstaking is getting the funding to repair the embankment and restore the hydroelectric generating station. We want to fill the breach. We want to fill it in a way that is less vulnerable than we were in October 2015. We want to start generating good green hydroelectric power again. And so that has been a negotiation with FEMA that took over 4 years for them to agree on the extent of damage, multiple trips to Washington, D.C. and advocacy, but we finally got to agree to the extent of damage, and it took 54 months to complete the environmental assessment work that was necessary to get to where we are today. Where we are today is just a few months out of getting our final Federal Energy Regulatory Commission approval. Now that we've got funding from FEMA, we've got to get FERC approval to amend our license to do this work. That's in progress. And so in just a few months, I think you'll see us bid that project, which the latest estimate is about $60 million. I think it's going to be north of that based on construction bid prices that I'm seeing. But that's being paid for by FEMA through the Public Assistance Program. So our ratepayers won't have to pay any of that, which I'm very excited about. And then finally, we're replacing the head gates, which were part of the problem. We weren't able to stop the flow of water coming into the canal system in 2015. So those are going to be modernized. We received grant money as well through HUD, a mitigation grant, to fund about half of that work. So we got $12 million. We got about a $6 million grant for that. All told, you're looking at $130, $140 million worth of work that's going to be happening to restore our canal and make us better than we were. We'll spend less than a third of that out of your pockets, our pockets, in order to be better. So feeling pretty good about where we are with the canal system right now. Talk just a little bit about water quality. Some of you may know that in 2014, the city signed a consent decree with the Department of Justice and EPA to minimize sanitary sewer overflows. So a lot of effort has gone into fixing our wastewater collection system so that we're spilling as few gallons of sanitary sewer on the ground and into receiving streams as possible. It wouldn't be intellectually honest for me to tell you that we're gonna get to a point where we spill zero. I think any utility manager that tells you that they'll spill zero this year is not being truthful. Things happen, grease blockages, root intrusions, collapse lines, those sorts of things. We want to minimize it and spill as few gallons as possible, okay? So that's what that effort is, and we're making tremendous progress in fixing our collection system. In your neighborhoods, there is a sanitary sewer manhole rehabilitation contract that's active right now. So you may see Columbia work trucks or contractors coming out and doing some work on manholes as they're expected. We've got a lot of old brick manholes in the sewer collection system that are starting to deteriorate, and mortar is giving way. So they've got a project to come, we've got a project to come fix those so they don't create problems. Beyond that, aging infrastructure is an issue for any older eastern seaboard city. We're not immune to that. We've got water pipes in the ground, 80, 90, 100 years old, that have exceeded their useful life. And so we're strategically going through one community at a time and trying to fix that issue, replace that infrastructure. So if you've got water leaks, if you've got water quality problems, at the end I'll give Bob a number of how to report that. But be patient with us. We can't replace everything at once, but we are hitting the worst spots first. Right now, Rosewood is getting some of their infrastructure replaced. Before that, it was Earlwood and Booker Washington Heights. Cottontown, we just finished up a project there recently. So we're kind of working from some of those older neighborhoods out, and we'll be getting to your neighborhoods soon. We're also asking for grant dollars where possible to try to help us as much as we can. There's been some EPA activity about lead and copper, some revisions there. I don't get overly excited about lead in drinking water because I'm so very confident in this treatment strategy that we've been using since the mid-1990s to minimize lead in drinking water. We've been very aggressive to minimize lead exposure, but when things like Flint, Michigan happen, it brings it to the forefront of everybody's mind. That is something we watch very, very carefully. We're not going to have those issues here. Those issues happened in Flint because somebody was trying to save some money, and that somebody didn't understand basic water chemistry. It's pretty basic, fundamental stuff. The problem that happened up there never should have happened. A little bit of phosphate corrosion inhibitor would have completely taken care of that problem. That's the strategy that we use. You may also have heard about perfluorinated substances, PFAS. And so we have those substances in our rivers and lakes. We don't have modern treatment technologies to remove those substances. So they're in your drinking water as well. They're in the air we breathe. They're in a lot of drinking water in the United States. There's a lot of debate about what level is safe, if any level is safe for these. A lot of research is going into that. EPA has promulgated a level. The Trump administration has given more time for water utilities to comply with that level. We are working to identify treatment techniques to be able to comply with these very low levels. If I would have been presenting to you 5 years ago, I would have said, PFAS, not a problem. We've never detected it in our water system. The detection levels are getting better and better, lower and lower. The level, approved level, allowable level was 70 parts per billion before. Now it's 4. So when folks say, wait a minute, you've got these compounds in your water, and what are you doing about it? And they get really excited, and I say, we're studying this. The regulatory framework is not mature yet. It's not a requirement yet. A lot of research happening, but because we have a stronger telescope does not mean there are more stars in the sky. These compounds have been there, now we can see them. And now that we see them, and as soon as that regulation becomes enforceable, we're going to do what's necessary to meet it. We're also not going to try to double your water bill while we do that. Yes, ma'am.
Have y'all gotten a settlement from the industry?
No, ma'am. And I can't speak too much about that. I'll just say this. The City of Columbia, and our mayor and council have taken the posture of the polluters need to pay. If we've got to remove these things that we didn't put in the water, the people that did put it in the water need to pay for us to be able to remove that.
There are cities that have gotten settlement.
Yes, ma'am.
Why have y'all not?
So there was a class action settlement that was offered to Columbia as well as the other water systems that are impacted. When we calculated the value of that class action settlement, if we would have participated, we would have gotten about $10 million of compensation from these companies. And that sounds like a lot of money. It is. I don't mean to be flippant about that. $10 million is a lot of money to do a lot of good things. We're looking at an investment of $150 to $200 million to remove those compounds. So we felt like it was better to say no to the class action settlement, file our own lawsuit. Yes, ma'am, we have. That's, yes, ma'am, we have. That's been several months ago that we did that. We said no to class action, we decided to go after and pursue the polluters. And so we're hoping that will bear fruit and that will give us the relief that we need and the ability to install treatment systems that we can reliably comply with any new level regardless of what it may come down to be finalized at. Any other questions about water quality before I move on? I'm passionate about that. I grew up as a water quality guy, and I'm really passionate about folks making money, creating chemicals that, and then not putting that on our ratepayers. This is just a map of our current capital improvement projects. I know you can't read that, and I can't either. I'm not even going to try, but we are investing heavily in our infrastructure. We are spending about $95 million a year investing in our water and wastewater infrastructure. And your rates are supporting that. So we appreciate that, but that's what it takes to keep the utility going. We spend over $100 million a year in annual operational maintenance costs to produce safe drinking water, to protect the environment. And then we also we sell bonds and to fund spending capital improvements to help do things like fix our collection system, replace drinking water, make sure our plants are in good shape to be able to provide the quality. Yes, sir.
What's the revenue from water? What's the city of Vernon in revenue?
So we do a cost of service analysis every year. And so we're not a for-profit, right? We're trying to break even. I want to say, and it's a great question, I want to say that the water and sewer revenue is well over $200 million a year. And so we're investing some back into the system through the capital improvement program. We're paying the power bill, we're buying the treating compounds, we're paying our people. Our costs are people, power, chemicals, and then materials, and within the replace a fire hydrant, whatever, a valve, stick a pipe, those sorts of things. Great question. And then I wrap up with customer service, which is very important to us. We want to be as responsive as we possibly can be whenever you've got a problem. You can see that we've made a lot of improvement in our call center and gotten that call wait time down. We made a decision a couple of years ago. We figured at 3 a.m. not too many people are calling to report a leak or to talk about their water bill. So we let an answering service do that, and we pull those night shift employees to the day shift, so we've got enough employees. We can answer the phone a little quicker and get responses out a little bit quicker. But you can see touch points, 26,000 in April. So a lot of folks are calling. You know, a lot of those are bill questions, or only paying a bill, whatever, but then there's a variety of other things. The last thing on the slide is the work order backlog. So I started in this position around 2017, and one of my first questions are, how many work orders do we have in backlog? Let's just take water distribution, for example. How many work orders do we have? And the answer was, well, I'm not sure. Well, how can we not be sure how many work orders that we've got? So there were a lot of things scribbled down on pieces of paper, and the work might have been done, but it was never closed in the system, or the work may have never been captured in the system. And so we're just kind of antiquated how we were tracking things. So we started mandating that all work done, all work work request be entered into our city work water management system, and everything that we do, every hour that we spend, every dime that we spend, be tracked in the city works management system. And so now we can see, we track it with these arrows. Are we trending down? Are we trending up? And we look at these numbers every month. Some of us look at them every week. And so we're tracking about 1,600 or so work orders in backlog right now. That seems like a lot. We get about 700 to 800 new work orders every month. So those may be, hey, come check my meter box lid is broken. It might be a discolored water check or a blood pressure check. It could be a leak. A variety of different things that we might see come in and manifest itself as a work order. When I finally got an answer, it was over 7,000. So we've been strategically working our way down. And so what I would like to see, my goal is 700 to 800, so that what's coming in that month gets closed that month. What comes into next, we're kind of turning things over. Obviously, some things like if you don't have water at your home tonight, and you call now with the answering service, then we're going to dispatch somebody out that evening.
How many employees do you have servicing those requests?
So in water distribution, doing the field work right now, we're at about 45 full-time employees that are doing that work. So there's a back office staff helping them. So water distribution has, I think, 98 employees total. Some are utility locators, like when Lumos or other fiber deployment folks want to come run a line, we've got to locate our water line, so hopefully they don't hit our water line. So we've got a team of utility locators, we've got some regulatory folks, we've got some meter maintenance folks. But the ones that are fixing water lines, we're about 45, and I need to add about 5 or 6 to get staffed up. So
45 people?
45 people, yes, sir.
Seems like a very small number.
It's pretty lean, yes, sir. It's pretty lean. We've also been hiring private contractors to help us cut back on that backlog. And so once we hit that steady state, then I think we'll be in a better position. They're giving us a good value, but we think we can do it at a cheaper cost. Yes, sir.
I think a lot of the concerns that I hear in the neighborhood are that we have water main breaks that get fixed and then they break again, and they, it's like so I don't know if that has to do with the age of the pipes or the road conditions or what, but it does feel like there's we have some places that are kind of chronic
Yes, sir.
problems.
We're working on the swimming pool in front of my house.
Okay, all right, let's talk afterwards. I want to make sure we got your work orders. Yeah, Ben's going to write the number down for 545-3300, a way to report. Is that what you're going to write down?
There's actually a number of ways to contact us.
Write it all down, Ben, thank you, yes. We've got to do that. Call Ben, yes, that's a good way.
Spread that around.
So Bob, what you're talking about is a very real problem that we deal with every day. And so what we started doing a few years ago was generating what we call heat maps. So we now we're capturing our work orders in the system, we plot those on a map. So I can have staff produce a map of where am I getting discolored water complaints? Where are we getting leaks on pipes? And so that informs how we spend that $93 million of capital. That's why we're in Rosewood next, replacing pipes. And so, and while we'll be coming. So it's very important when you've got a problem to let us know. Because that is recorded, that is logged, that work order, even when it's closed out, we've captured it, we've been there. Places in Irma, we find ourselves going time and time again. There's a cul-de-sac that's fed with an old galvanized line. Instead of going and fixing it, and 10 feet later fixing it again, by about the third time, let's just replace the line. It's time. Let's go ahead and do that. We can't do that everywhere because it's a resource constriction, but that's how we're managing that. We're looking at where have we been, where do we keep going. And it's just really frustrating for our team as well.
So is there any truth to you hear it all the time. I mean, everybody I've heard it many times from many people, that the revenues from the water system have been kind of pirated by, I guess by the city to use for other purposes, and that the water system has suffered because of that.
So, I'll say this, in 2017, council acted to make sure that doesn't happen. And so, right now, the utility pays an indirect transfer to the city. But I don't have to have a legal team. I don't have to have an IT department. I don't have a human, so I pay for the procurement department. I pay the city to do those services for the utility. So that's payment for services rendered. Before there have been some transfers, some large transfers that have occurred, but we did a transfer during COVID from the Water and Sewer Revenue Fund to help support the general fund, but that was a one-time special emergency thing, and quite frankly, our community needed it. We needed to buy personal protective equipment for our employees, and we needed to support our community, and so that was something that everyone in town agreed to. But there's a very careful watch on that now, to make sure that we're reinvesting the revenues that water and sewer rates generate, the rates that you pay, reinvesting them in the system. When you don't, you end up with things like consent orders and things like that. So, there's a history, but the recent history is really good fiscal management by our city council and mayor. I'm proud of that. Yes, ma'am.
Totally different, but on the customer service side, I recently had to change my banking account for my automatic payment. Most places you can go online and give them a debit card and switch it right over. Do you know how it works?
It's not good, is it?
It is not good.
Experience.
It is not good. It has to come from my checking account, and it takes 8 weeks. I don't really understand that. Could you maybe give me a hint?
So we have certain policies and procedures in place, working with our finance folks, and making sure that everything fraudulent happens, our customers aren't taken advantage of. But I'll say this, and it's a mantra that I say probably once a week. Good businesses, and we're a business, if you will, but for public good. Good businesses that are well run, that stay in business, make it easy for people to give you money.
I haven't paid you in 2 months.
We want to make it easy for you to pay your bill.
Yeah.
It's frustrating now. We are looking at that and actually are having some meetings with some different vendors that will make that one-click pay option a lot easier. So I'm hopeful that you'll see some changes within the next year. Well, I hope not too. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I am at the end of the line. So that means whenever something happens upstream, I end up with the brown water, the clay water, the green water, and it happens a lot.
Okay.
And I know when it happens because I have a white bathtub. If we took showers all the time, we wouldn't know. But when I fill up my white bathtub, you see all the colors. And I can tell you, nothing pisses me off worse than to talk with somebody in customer service and say it's perfectly safe because we have a pressurized system and nothing can get in it, but red clay can. And green, I don't know what the green is, but I regularly have green water.
So you're right. Nothing ticks off a customer more when you say, well, it's safe to drink, no problem.
It is not.
Nobody would want to drink that. So I say, I find that very objectionable too. Let us send a technician out, flush that pipe, and try to get it cleaned up for you. I would like to chat with you afterwards, though, because we may want to, if you're on the end of the line, we can put, we can make sure that you're on a routine flushing.
I have asked if something preventative could be done, and I got a no answer. And I've asked it more than once. We've been there 11 years.
I think I can help you. Let's talk.
Maybe get one of those representatives to drink some of that water.
Well, technically, if it's okay, drink up then. Listen, technically, whenever
like if I were to go out and open a fire hydrant and then close it shut real quick, and it's in an older community, the water's gonna turn brown. You're gonna get red water because the lining on the inside of those pipes, they're unlined cast iron pipes, so you've got tuberculation and iron material and deposits in those pipes. So it's not dirt getting in, it's the corrosion from within the pipe wall itself over time, that when you disturb the flow pattern, it stirs it all up, and a little bit of iron goes a long way.
Well, we get red clay, but
Yes, ma'am.
it's very,
You can get particulates as well. I mean, it's, and we do have a pressurized system, so technically, maybe it's, you know, I wouldn't drink it.
I don't watch Willard in the water.
Yes, ma'am. I totally understand that. So, call us, we'll get our flush, and then let's talk about, we can get a flushing routine out. And we try to catch dead end lines and to do that, so.
What's the flushing routine? That's when you open up the hydrant?
So a hydrant or a blow off, or we can even pull something off a meter, but just letting the water run to kind of clear it up. So if you're on a dead end line and water sits in that line for a long period of time with little usage, you can get some dinginess to the water as well. So flushing it keeps it turned over, and that gives us the ability when you do have brown water.
They tell me to flush.
Mona's had her hand up.
I'm sorry.
So let me, and I think we're getting close to the hour, so, it sounds like, Clint is willing to stick around a while. So
Sure.
if you have individual things that you want to talk to him about, I suggest you do that. But Mona, you got something?
I just wanted, since you're here, to ask a question. When I bought my house in early 2015, it was nothing but a patchwork of repairs on Abingdon Road from water leaks, and it continued. And I also heard from the neighborhood association and everything that people were really petitioning the state to, because it's a state road, to get them to repave it. But it seems there was little to no coordination, because the state comes along, we have active water leaks on Abingdon that the city has known about. I mean, there is a constant series of leaks on, the first couple of blocks up from Sunset on Abingdon. Active leaks. They come along, start stripping the road. Y'all did nothing. We even called and nothing got done because those water leaks were already known about. Here comes the state, they paved this road using our tax dollars. They sent vibratory equipment down that road that was stronger than the earthquake alerts you get, vibrating the heck out of everything on that road. And immediately you have active water leaks that were already there coming up through. So now we're gonna start this whole cycle again with this brand new paved road. And it kind of, pardon my language, pisses me off that we'd have been better off waiting to get that road paved while they, go pave Earlwood where y'all just replumbed it.
So, completely understand, that's disappointing to hear. I'd say right now, in my opinion, we're doing a much better job coordinating with DOT. We're replacing the large water main on Trentham Road because they were about to pave Trentham Road. So they allowed us to cut a trench in Trentham Road and put a new water main in, because I'm telling you, if they would have paved that road and vibrated, we would have had leaks everywhere. And so, and if we come back, we've got to pave the entire section. To do that project after they had impressed pavement, they would have made us repave the road, which I
Well, then you
understand.
end up with instant potholes, because, I mean,
Absolutely.
no offense to your crews, but they're pretty shitty at filling in the holes y'all leave behind and those lovely metal plates on the road and everything else. It's just,
Yeah, so better coordination is very important, because what I would like to do is renew the infrastructure before the fresh pavement goes down. That's what we're trying to do that and working with it. There's also some money for roads in the second meeting that's coming out. The city's gonna get some money to do paving, and we're excited about that. So we'll be replacing infrastructure, fresh pavement on top of our city roads. We've been working with the
I mean,
state.
because I know the state's not gonna be paving that anytime soon. I mean, it took 10 years to get that done.
Thank you. I'm sorry for your frustration, but thank you.
Thank you so much, Clint. This
Yeah.
has been really helpful. And, I'd invite people, if you do have, concerns or things that you want to bring to Clint, he'll be around for a little while anyway. And I just want to tell you that, as the chair of the city's climate advisory board, I've worked with Clint quite a bit. 2 years ago, the city council passed a resolution that further committed the city to running on clean renewable energy by the year 2036. And Clint has been our champion in the city. I mean, he really has taken that torch and has been making really good progress on it. We're trying to do this in a way that is financially sensible as well as environmentally sensible. And I don't think we could be asking for a better person to be working with us.
I appreciate that. I've enjoyed that work. Thank you.
So, thanks. And, Sam.
Thank you. So, my name is Sammy Munson. As some of you may know, my father is a lineman, and this year I'm a current senior in high school. And so I go to Heathwood Hall, and every year seniors do a senior thesis project. What that is an academic research paper looking at sort of any topic, and I chose mine about Eau Claire. So what I wanted to look at was why we have poor food-related health outcomes. And so the title of my paper is an examination of Eau Claire's poor food-related health outcomes, causes, results, and solutions. So my thesis is that Eau Claire suffers simultaneously from being a food desert and a food swamp, which negatively impacts residents' health. To combat this problem, the community needs to coordinate existing food donation providers, pass legislation restricting convenience stores and fast food, and provide adequate food education in schools. So I'm going to sort of skip over some of the history of Eau Claire for the sake of time, because we all live here as opposed to going to a school down the road. So we'll start out with the differences between a food swamp and a food desert. First and foremost, a food desert and food swamps are food environments. For research purposes, we categorize different areas and can name them so thus we can address the issues within them. In a food desert, there is a need for food retailers of any kind. Overall, there is a high amount of low-income persons and low access to the food. The issue is food security. People are unable to get food on the table and provide caloric values into their diet. When looking at food swamps, we actually have an overabundance of food retailers. These food retailers, however, aren't the traditional grocery stores and healthy food shops that we see. Instead, it's convenience stores, quick shops, and gas stations. In a food swamp, we often lack healthy, nutritious foods that provide people with quality diet. And so the issue is nutrition security, allowing people to make healthy choices if they choose to, and providing them with nutrition to lead a better life. So, looking to some of the health-related impacts, we can first see obesity rates. We have a food desert, food swamp, and the other category is sort of other food environments, but mainly it's standard environments where we have a good mix of convenience stores and grocery stores. So what we see here is that food swamps experience the highest rates of obesity as compared to other food environments, which is negative health impacts, and as we look ahead, you can see that it matters in the sense of Eau Claire, because right now Eau Claire is simply identified as a food desert. Using federal guidelines in the USDA, on the map on the right, we can see the orange. That means that Eau Claire is low income and low access. This is true, however, it doesn't get to the root of the issue. We need to identify whether Eau Claire is a food swamp. That we do with a Retail Environment Food Index, or an RFEI. This number is derived from counting the overall amount of unhealthy food stores, that being gas stations, quick shops, convenience stores, divided by grocery stores and healthy food stores. This yields us a number. The RFEI of the highlighted area, which I determined as sort of the Eau Claire neighborhood in the modern context, was 5.33. This is a relatively high number and indicates that Eau Claire is in fact a food swamp and thus needs a different policy treatment issues than just a food desert. And so, looking ahead to the policy issues, you can see that this will lead to a disconnect because government believes that we need to treat the area as a food desert, when in actuality we need to address the issue from the perspective of a food swamp. So, the other day I went out and I went to a couple places around the area, and so these first two pictures are from a gas station, and I looked around for probably 5 minutes. There's not a single fresh fruit or vegetable. Every single item in that store was packaged, processed, often containing high amounts of sugar, salt, and a lack of nutritional value. On the bottom right, we have our local food line just up the road. And as you can see there, there's an ample amount of fresh fruits and vegetables. However, this is just one of two providers within the area, the food line and the Piggly Wiggly. And so we don't have enough of these providers to counter the convenience and the overall large amount of convenience stores. Thus, people are more likely to choose these unhealthy food retail establishments. So currently, the City of Columbia has a couple of policies that aim to address the issue of food insecurity within the area, namely through Serve and Connect Greg's Groceries, which is a statewide operation that connects local law enforcement agencies with communities, and they give out boxed foods. And so the goal is to strengthen connections and ties between the community and police officers. And it's a great program, and it helps in a lot of areas. However, it needs a different approach within the context of Eau Claire. As we can see within the box, here we have boxed mac and cheese, rice, instant potatoes, applesauce granola bar, and a chocolate granola bar. There's little nutritional value within this. People need quality food, and the food being provided here doesn't serve that. Instead, these policies should focus on bringing nutritional food as an option to people into the area. The other issue is that currently we can have more gas stations, convenience stores. The other year, I believe, we almost had a new gas station go in on the corner, and BOZA is currently allowing rezonings to increase this number. People are more likely to make negative choices if these stores continue to proliferate. Therefore, we need to restrict the expansion of these stores into the future. So, looking to the results of living in this area, Eau Claire has high rates of obesity and sadly the highest rate of lower leg amputation in the nation. Conducted from 2010 to 2020, the state found that there were 10 lower leg amputations per 10,000 people per year on average in 29203, which is, of course, where Eau Claire is. There's 40,000 people in 29203, which means 40 people a year are losing a part of themselves to type 2 diabetes related leg amputations. Type 2 diabetes is preventable through good choices and access to healthy foods. Another part of type 2 diabetes treatment is dialysis. a process by which your kidneys no longer function, and therefore a machine is needed to filter toxins out of your blood. The Eau Claire area has 8 dialysis clinics, far more than any other area in Columbia. And as you can see right here, the North Main Kidney Center, just around the corner, which we will get to later. So through the process of my research, I spoke with members of the community, and in an interview with Miss Sabrina Odom Edwards, she shared a story about her mom that I thought was really powerful, so I'd like to read it for you all. Her mom was going to go to a dialysis clinic for treatment as a result of type 2 diabetes, and this is how she felt. She said she felt like she was in a farm, and they had all the cows lined up, and everybody is hooked up to these machines with not enough nurses, not enough of anything to help you. She says she looks to one side, blood is dripping from one person, and then looks to the other side, someone is moaning. She says they give you a headset, but you can still see everything around you. She couldn't get the image of leaving life on the machine. So, looking ahead to other aspects of the conversations with community members, I'm sure some of you might recognize some of the names up here. And so, these interviews were sort of a conversation. They were centered around food-related health impacts, but it was really to gain a perspective, because we can look at academic papers and try to apply them, but unless we're looking at real-time data from people in the area, it's not going to line up. And so Zephyr Manley thought that we could help this situation by adding more grocery stores. That was her opinion. Ms. Janie Nelson thought that they think that our community is a food desert, but the food we have has too much sugar and too many carbohydrates. And so that is another issue when we're trying to address the health impacts. And then Ms. Odom Edwards says that people get food from donation boxes, but they don't know how to cook it. That leads us to the next point of having to address the education component. So where do we go from here? I'd like to take a minute to look at these images. This first one is from 2015, and as you can see, the Bilo is in frame. Bilo is here in Eau Claire for almost 40 years. And at the end of 2015, it shut down, and we got the Harveys instead. But at the end of 2017, the Harveys shut down as well. And so this photo, just like as we saw at the beginning of the slideshow, was taken just yesterday. That O'Reilly Auto Parts is where the Harveys used to be. And right next to it is now a new dialysis clinic, still overlooking the town hall of historic Eau Claire. And so I think this image really summarizes the issues that the community is facing, how we've changed over time, and how we need to change to look forward to the future. Thank you.
Any questions or comments about this?
And you're talking about something like that.
Yes, ma'am? Yes.
I know when you and I talked a few months ago, you said you are going to present this to the city.
Yes.
Because I think one really great thing about what you're doing, it's really great, congratulations, but, is the, effort to, make change, at that level, the legislative level.
Yes. So at some point in time, I'm planning on doing that. I think I'm gonna change the presentation a little bit and sort of make it more towards a policy brief that would be spoken to the city. I actually was asked about this earlier today during the presentation in school. Somebody said, "What are you going to do with it?" And so, yes, I'm going to present it to you all tonight. Yes, sir.
Question: why would you change it? Just make some outline of what you want to add to your presentation, but don't change that what you have there, because you're connecting with this community.
Right.
And we can understand that, placing additional outline to what you just discussed, so that you can introduce the information a little bit more, but I wouldn't change the presentation, because now you're talking about starting all over.
Yes, sir.
And regathering information, and you have something right there that you can work with.
Excellent. Excellent. And what I do like is that you are already touching one of the problems that we have found, even with the, mobile market, and just having the healthy food does not mean that you automatically change your behavior and your habits. So I'm glad the young folks are thinking, ahead of us, because it's not just having that available, but how do we get people to change their minds about eating? And so I want to commend you for that, because to me, that's been the hardest thing, changing people's mentality. If they've been eating one thing for 25 years, and you say, I always say, if you were getting a honey bun from the gas station every week, and then there's a grocery store, you're probably still going to get that honey bun, once a week. So I commend you for the forethought too.
Yes, ma'am. And so I actually found a piece of research that backed up what you're saying. Anecdotally, they found that they put, I believe, 2 new grocery stores in an area, and the food habits didn't change at all because there were still just as many unhealthy food retailers. And so it starts with adding in this healthy food and not allowing the proliferation of unhealthy food, because we still need to maintain food security as we're transitioning, but only once we've allowed the healthy food to come in, then we can sort of think about limiting the unhealthy food.
And teaching to cook.
Yes. That's it. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
When we first started the Tom's Truck, I observed the Tom's Truck, they sell 36 honey buns instead of fruits. And the fruits on that truck is not really suitable. It's not fresh water, is it? And that is why nobody won't buy it. They got more honey buns and more other stuff than what's really needed in the city.
All right. And one of the other issues that I sort of saw myself, because I went down there, is the limited hours that are associated with it. It's during the work day, and it's only on Mondays, I believe. And so I drove by and saw it today, but that limits access for a lot of people. And so I'd say that's one key thing that we can address pretty easily. All right, thank you.
I don't have a question, but.
To be totally honest, because the market was my concept, the mobile markets are really designed for people who don't have transportation.
Right.
And I don't micromanage projects, but if you're putting it at the park where people still have to drive, that is not necessarily the intent, if that makes sense. If they work better, if they're put in places where you don't have to drive to them.
I asked the guy working in there, because I went to the Sumter Street location, his right by the bus terminal thing. He doesn't do more than $100 a week a day there.
Oh, we know.
And 100 at ours, so.
We know, and
So it doesn't matter where they are. And
because he does better, he has different locations where he does better.
They
I think at Greenview,
he does. They told me they average
Yes, sir.
100.
In your research, did you have the opportunity to speak to any of your grocery stores that was in the area and had left as to why they decided to close and leave?
So I did not speak with anybody specifically, like the Harveys or the Bilo, for why they left, but yes, ma'am.
I did not have the chance to speak with with them, but an issue that I sort of found through research that was talked about is just a lack of sales overall. And so having a large grocery market like that, if you have a lot of products, that means you also have a lot of turnover and a lot of loss. And so oftentimes, these grocery stores say they simply don't have enough money coming in to justify keeping them there. And the key part of my research that I did include here, just to keep it brief, was looking at changing food market and a circular economy that was developed during white flight out to suburbs, because I believe that urban grocery stores on an infrastructure level are not sustainable anymore as compared to ones out in a suburban context, but that's sort of outside of today's presentation.
But part of the problem too is, when you have unhealthy diet, is people not having access or seeing a doctor regularly. That's how you find out if you're in bad shape. You have physical blood panels, doctors can educate you what the problems are. It's usually connected to your diet.
So, thank you, Sam. We've gone kind of over time, so I want to thank you. That was just such helpful perspective, and I had never heard of a food swamp before, but it makes perfect sense, and I like the way that you created the index there. That's really helpful. So I'm sure we'll be continuing this conversation over the next, we've been talking about it for years, right? And I think we'll continue. I think there are some changes that are happening in the neighborhood that could make it have an impact as well. Because a lot of we've been told by real estate developers that specialize in food stores and that kind of thing, we've been told that they just look at the numbers. And the problem is the numbers don't line up in this neighborhood. Yes, sir.
When working for the city, we did a study. Don't pay attention to the real estate people.
Well,
the real estate people are the ones that's killing Eau Claire.
Well,
the real estate agents in this town, and tell them voters know this, because I was one of those who did the investigation. When people are migrating to Colombia, and they are looking for a place to live, the real estate agents in this town, when they tell them we want to live closer to the inner city, we steer them away from Eau Claire. Yep. But let me tell you what you have in this part of town that most people don't know. Eau Claire has some of the finest housing stocks in Colombia. Yep. And to raise, because they want a large return on their efforts, they will send people to Northeast Colombia. Sure will. Yeah. Now let me give you a fact about Northeast Colombia that most of you here don't know about. We investigated Northeast Colombia, and there is a colony of termites that run through Northeast Colombia. Most of the homes you see in Northeast Colombia are shells. Termites have eaten them up. That is why anytime anybody can get out of Northeast Colombia to come into the state of Colombia, they run out. They will run out of Northeast Colombia in a heartbeat. Because if there is a terrible storm, those things in Northeast Colombia, it has been proven. But your real estate agents run people away from Eau Claire. They will tell you how bad the school is. They will tell you how high the crime rate is. And Northeast Colombia has a higher crime rate than Eau Claire. Take my word for it. Call Leon Lott. Go to Holbrooks and look at the data. But your real estate agents are the ones that's killing Eau Claire. The agents. So don't listen to what they tell you.
All right now.
And thank you for that, because, we all live here, and we want to live here. So, where I was going with that thought was basically that if the numbers start to change, then those developers who are interested in retail and grocery stores in particular, they may reevaluate. So, and if we get more urban density, we get, just fill in all those empty lots that we've got in the neighborhood with people who are living here. That would make a big difference. Yes, sir.
What I think is happening here, and it happens at a lot of the meetings that you have, is you're talking about it, and that's the key. It's not gonna happen overnight.
Right.
You're not gonna get a lot of people back into the community like you want to, unless it's over time, and then you have to deliver what you say you're gonna deliver. You gotta give them something to see that you show the effort of what you're trying to do. Some people come in and they look at stuff and they say, okay, we're gonna do this, they get started, and it dwindles. You gotta keep it going.
Absolutely.
You gotta keep talking about the same things that you want to change, and they will change.
Right.
I got one brewery in it.
Brewery. We are, like I said, we're pretty far over time here, and I know that people probably have other things they'd like to do this evening, like go home and whatever. So I just have a couple of quick things, and I don't know if do we have announcements from Hyatt Park? Michelle?
Well, the only thing I know you all spoke about the scholarships for the 2 children. I think we have 1, so that's all. And also, I noticed that we are getting our concession stand restrooms.
Reconstructed some type of way inside or whatever, get some epoxy something, I'm not sure. But I keep peeping in to try to figure out what's going on, but I think we're gonna get something going on there, so. I don't know of anything else right now, but Jamaica's not here, so I'm just filling in.
All right. May I ask a question? Michelle?
Yes.
Should I contact you, and how do we sign that? Well, how do we do what we said we would do, like help that child? In other words, last year I brought a check over to them.
Speak with Jamaica about that, because she might have some questions to ask you about the one person that she has already. It's a little concern about that one, so call her tomorrow after 4 o'clock, because it's a little after 4.
After 4.
Yeah, it's a little concern about that one particular one.
I'd like to just mention that I got an email from Tamika Devine earlier today. I'll get you in a minute. And she just mentions that she wasn't able to be here because there was another event elsewhere that she had to be at. She had been asked about the possibility of state money for a fence at Hyatt Park, and says that that's not likely for 2 reasons. One is that the state isn't doing earmarks this session, and also that since it's a city park, it has to go through the city finances. So she didn't think that that was likely. She also said that she did a couple of highlights from the legislative session. They passed the hands-free law, so that means that starting soon, you can't be holding your cell phone as you're driving. And failure to stop for a blue light is now a felony offense. So, like if the if you're being followed by the cop. Apparently it wasn't a felony offense before, I didn't know that. So that was the thing from Tamika. Tina, you have anything?
I'm only gonna say two, because I'm not on the agenda and I know, but I just wanna say two things that relate to tonight's discussion. I wanna thank everyone that came to the, public, forums that we had for the former I-22 highway that we're finally going to be able to develop. That's the land, it starts at Park Street. It's the clear outland, on River Drive, and it comes all the way down. It's relevant to this conversation because it is going to be what we call multi-use. So we're looking at residential, we're looking at commercial, and it allows an opportunity for grocery stores or supportive groceries, but it all goes back to density. So that's, I wanted to add that, and I want to thank y'all because someone had actually had a developer, and they bought the developer, they sent me the plans, and we had a meeting, and they said, we have a developer, and this is what he wants to do. And I said, but this is public property, and we have to have a transparent process, and we're gonna go through a competitive process. And have you told them that? And so then we all had to redo our plans, because we will plan together. We plan with folks, not for folks. And that was, just wasn't gonna let it happen, I guess is all I can say. The other thing is filling in property. The city itself, we have 32 pieces of residential property that we're sitting on, and we now have a 5-year plan. It should take 5 years. But I'm like, we can't tell other people to fill in their lots if we're not filling in our lots. So we're filling in our lots, building homes, and our homes will be for purchase. So it's folks that'll be able to stay here long term. And I'm gonna leave my announcements at that because it's just relevant to what some of the discussion was today.
Yeah.
It just takes forever.
Yeah, and I think that this greenway development that we were talking about is very exciting, both for quality of life and for the possibility of attracting more business, including grocery stores, but also lots of other kinds of retail and service businesses and so forth. So I'm very excited about that. So I think there are a few other things that I could go through, but I'm not going to. So is there anything else from anybody here? Lee, you had your hand up earlier.
My concern is summer camp. Our summer camp should cater to kids in the community. And it should be free. Because if we lose these babies while they're small, we're gonna regret it when they get older. And so those summer camps should be free. It should never be a paid event to go to summer camp.
I would like to work on that for next year, since I think it's too late for this year, but I think I agree with you, and I would like to press for that, because it's very expensive.
Yeah, $85 a week is quite a lot of money for families. So, yeah, I think it'd be great if we could work on that and see if we can find some money somewhere to support it and so forth. So that'd be great. I think we should have a committee, you know, and let's try and figure that out. Anything else?
We may have to get with you or you get with us, your group, and we'll do a letter. But I just want to make sure I mention that, Hurricane Helene was last year, September of last year, and we still got trees in the front yard, or trees are down, and no one is requiring them to pick it up. And I was gonna talk with my council person, after the meeting, I will talk with her, find out whether there is an ordinance, or is there an ordinance. If there's not, we need to, maybe get with her and council people, see whether we can do anything about it.
Do we have a list of properties where?
I've shared about 3 or 4 of them, and one is right here on Main Street, on the thoroughfare, right here, 4120 Main Street, and the stumps are still, I had told the people cut the tree limbs off, but the stumps are still there. But you got some property up North Main, you have the same problem, the trees are, matter of fact, Mayor Rickerman was driving down Main Street and he was coming down to have lunch, and he said, why is that tree still, why aren't you doing anything about it? I said, that's not our problem, that's the city's problem. And matter of fact, I even given the address to code enforcement, and they said, there's no such address, but the address is clearly listed on the house. So we're gonna have to have a meeting, but I just want everybody here to know that Hurricane Helene was September of last year, and they have not cleaned up the lots.
So
as of today.
My next door neighbor had a tree uprooted, stump there and a hole in the ground.
Right.
From 2015 flood.
Right.
If we have a list of those kinds of issues, I don't know if you might think, keep working on that, but if I can help in any way,
We're gonna have to get together as a community to figure out what we're gonna do about it, because this is getting to be a little bit much. They're not cleaning, matter of fact, one guy rented out a house and the tree covers the whole backyard of the house, and he has rented it out to people. So that should not happen in our neighborhood.
yeah, let's make sure that gets, dealt with.
So that's houses on private properties. Where they got the trees laying down.
Yeah.
So they don't have to come by, once they get the insurance money, they don't have to remove the tree, they can just let it lay there. Insurance only pays you $500 maximum per tree. I don't know if you take any trees out lately, but most of them run about $400.
Well, but the point is that it's a code enforcement issue, it's not a, so, yeah. Right. So, all right. I think we are getting close to the end here. So, any other quick things before we break up? Well, let's adjourn. Thanks, everybody.